Marjorie H. Parker, past Supreme Bacillus and historian of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, and author of Alpha Kappa Alpha, In the Eye of the Beholder.
Welcome to the University of the District of Columbia Carnegie Library and to our presentation. Alpha Kappa Alpha women in Washington who have worked for more than a year on this production are proud of facets of our diamond, Norma Boyd. Norma Boyd truly is our diamond. She is the only soror in Alpha Kappa Alpha who has already celebrated 75 years of membership. Over the decades of her life in Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, in her profession, and many other endeavors in Washington and in all parts of the world, she has so typified our motto, by merit and by culture too, that we believe that this presentation of this beautiful woman is an integral and important part of the celebration of the Diamond Jubilee of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. We hope you will enjoy it.
Happy anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary, Soror Norma.
Yeah.
You realize this is the 75th anniversary, huh?
That's right.
1908, it all began.
That's right.
How does it feel 75 years later?
How does it feel that the sorority has existed so long, do you mean? Or how does it feel that we've had so many wonderful experiences during those 75 years?
I guess both. I mean, to have existed for so long and to have so many wonderful, women in the organization that we can just network with.
Well, of course, when we started, there were such a few of us, and you all know how the sorority started.
Yes.
And because you read Soror Parker's book, and you know how the sorority started. But in those days, things were very different from what they are now. And I would like to talk about our achievements. Now, our first big achievement, I believe, was the Mississippi Health Project. There was a girl in our sorority from Mississippi who had gone to California, and she was interested in helping the poor people in Mississippi. So she decided first to send books to Mississippi. Then she decided that she needed to do more than that. And because of the sharecroppers, at that time they had sharecroppers, and on the plantations, the conditions were so terrible. Why? Some of the children didn't even have clothes. They didn't even have a name. They were called nigger gal. They didn't even have a name. And so she was determined to do something about it. Fortunately for us, Ms. Roosevelt was in the White House.
Oh, she was.
And fortunately for us, the girl from California, Ida Jackson, got a group, told me when she was president, that was when Ida Jackson was president of sorority, she told me she wanted to do something about it. So I asked her to be my house guest when she came to town, and that I would get the girls in the sorority who were capable to go down there. So she came with my house guest, and I introduced her to Dr. Dorothy Farabee, and to the girls who were interested in help.
Well, the girls that you suggested for the woman who was interested in getting something together down in Mississippi, were they at all scared? Because you all were at Howard, you know, and you were going to school, and it just seemed so amazing that, you know, people were, you know, at that young age, people were reaching out and worried about what was happening around the world to blacks.
Well, you know, no, this was a little later on, because I was teaching then.
Oh, okay.
And Ida Jackson was teaching in California. And so, in the early part of the sorority, we just planted ivy and did things like that. But when we went in for serious work, it was when Ida Jackson from California, who was formerly from Mississippi, got the idea she wanted to go down there to do something. She was president of the sorority at that time. And I told her, as I told you just now, that I would do that. So I got Dorothy Furby and some of the other girls. They went down there 10 years. That's how they spent their vacation. 10 years they went to Mississippi every year and drove from all over the country down there. And of course changed conditions. And it ended up with, right now, there is a hospital down there that's dedicated to that, now to the work. Now that was, I'm just picking out the highlights of the work we did, because you know our goal is supreme in service. Now, supreme in service, the supreme to us meant to the people who are the lowest down. When you're talking about supreme service, you're talking about reaching down, making life better for the people who are on the lowest level.
Are you saying that was one of the original goals, one of the original plans of the sorority, to give supreme service to all mankind?
That to supreme in service. That was the goal from the beginning. You know, in those times, not as many, and I remember you were talking about 75 years ago, not as many girls were in college as are in college today. No. In fact, at Howard University when we started the sorority, there were less than 300 students in the Arts and Sciences and Teachers College. Less than 300 students.
So how did, like you and the other founders, how did you all just kind of pick each other out or get together and say, hey, we're going to implement our ideas, we're going to start something and actually put the mechanism into motion? I mean, out of 300 students, you all were like pretty special.
Well, this is the way the sorority started. Let me go back a little further. The sorority, there was a fraternity on campus, Alpha fraternity.
Yes.
And one of the girls who started the sorority, Ethel Hedgeman, this Lyle was in the fraternity. He was her boyfriend. And so she thought if there was going to be a fraternity, there ought to be a sorority. So she got some of the girls together. And two of the ladies on campus gave them the background to organize a sorority. And they did. But their first idea in organizing a sorority was just to have a club. Now, they had no idea of having a sorority that was going to last through the years. With them on campus, it was just a club. I can tell you that because I know. They invited some of us. I was in sophomore class. They invited some of us who were in the sophomore class to come in the sorority to keep it going, you see.
So you got an invitation from someone else?
Yes, I got an invitation from Lyle
Ethel Hedgeman Lyle.
and them to come on in and join. I don't know how they picked us up, but they picked us up, and we were in there.
So what were some of the things that you did?
Oh, in those days, you didn't do anything but plant ivy on the campus and have parties and just what girls would do. But it wasn't until in 1913, I think it was, that the girls decided they didn't want some of the girls who were in it then, who were at Howard, didn't like the colors, and they didn't like the name. It wasn't Greek enough.
Right.
It wasn't Greek enough, and so they wanted to start Delta Sigma Theta. That was more Greek. Fortunately for us, there was a girl on the campus who had joined the sorority, who was going to school, taking classes in the evening, and was already teaching school. A very brilliant person, Nellie Quanda.
And she's the one that got it incorporated.
Well, when Nellie Quanda came in, really being associated with Nellie Quanda was, for me, just like taking a postgraduate course in political and social science. Nellie Quanda was a genius.
So she was older.
Yes.
She was older.
She was old and teaching school and knew. So Nellie said, oh no, you couldn't change the name and make all those changes without first consulting the people who started it.
So she had a serious, her whole attitude was much more serious than, this is not just a minor change that you're doing, you're changing something that has been.
That's it.
Organization.
That's
Yeah.
it. And so, because I happen to know the Burke girl who had the colors and all, was one responsible for it. And there were two Burke sisters in there.
Lillian and Beulah.
Beulah, and this was Beulah Burke. And at that time, Beulah Burke was living in Kansas City. All right, so fortunately for us, there was Nellie Quanda who had vision. And she said, first we're going to get this sorority we'll go to the authorities on the campus and see what they have to say. And they said we could have two sororities. So Nellie said, all right, then we'll get the sorority incorporated. So it was Nellie Quanda who saw the sorority in the future. She saw it as she projected it, that it would last all the time. See? And started to give it that foundation, because I happened to know, I was on campus when it started, that I happened to know all the girls. Then I was made secretary to write to all of them and find out what they wanted to do. Well, of course, Beulah Burke was teaching in Kansas City. She wanted it to stay. We wrote to Lyle, but we didn't get any answer from Lyle, and I can see that. Lyle had just started her family out west, and she was trying, at that time, colored people didn't have the opportunities they had now, and she wasn't interested. She had thought of it just as a club anyhow. So she didn't answer. Well, anyhow, we had it incorporated. Nellie had it incorporated. And I happened to be the secretary. And that was where we started. Well, when Nellie came in, she gave it direction. And after the incorporation, then she decided we were going to make Supreme in Service our goal. And from then on, it was that. That's the reason that I started to telling you about when Ida Jackson was president years later.
Okay.
She had this Mississippi Health Project. Well, you see, we knew where all the girls were.
And did they start chapters in the cities that they moved to?
And we started having chapters, as you read in Margaret's book, having chapters in the different locations where the girls had gone. Now, we knew every member. We knew where she was, and we knew her ability. And they were just interested in making the sorority grow. Now, Burke set up 2 chapters in Kansas City. Then in Kansas, then Nellie set up a new chapter. And I don't recall the different places where the chapters were set up. But I do know that we were in touch with every girl in the sorority and where she was. And of course, Nellie Quandt was an inspiration. And everybody felt then that this is what should be done. And we have a goal. And we're going to develop our plans. Now, I want to come back to what we did in Zionega. Now,
Nonpartisan Council?
now, that was the Nonpartisan Council on Public Affairs. This is how that happened. I was in school. I was teaching at Garnet Patterson. And I said to some of my boys, I said, what are those boys doing? The colored boys standing out on the corner. And they ought to be in school. And the boys said to me, Miss Boyd, if those boys thought they would get a job, now you talk about now unemployment. He said, Miss Boyd, if they thought they'd get a job, they would be in here. Well, that was a surprise to me. And I thought, well, then it's the teacher's duty to see that jobs open for the children she teaches. Now, that occurred one week. The next Sunday, I went up and picked up the New York Times. The New York Times said they were going to try that the Southern congressmen were going to expose the Northern congressmen on how they had traded in other legislation if they didn't stop trying to get the anti-lynch bill through Congress. You know, at those times, they were lynching Negroes throughout the South just weekly. I came home. We were having a meeting at Zionega. We were having a meeting at Dorothy Furby's house that evening. And when I came home, I had decided before time for that meeting that we were going to set up a committee and we were going to find out what was going on in Congress.
So you
And that's at one day. When I went to the meeting that evening, I told them what our plans were. We were going to open an office and we were going to employ people. And we didn't have any money, you know. We were going to open an office and we were going to employ 2 people. And we were going to investigate what was going on in the Congress. The girls said, yes. I said, the only way to do it is to know and get out the vote. That was our aim then. We were going to get out the vote. know what was going on in the Congress. That very day we decided we were going to do it. So in 2 months, with $130, I said every girl's going to get $10 apiece. Well, with $130, we opened an office in my house and employed 2 people. Well, I knew the only way to do it was to do it then, because if I didn't do it immediately, the girls would say, wait until we get some money. But I just said, wait, nothing. We're going to open the office. We opened an office and we employed 2 people. Well, fortunately for us, the president of Howard University's secretary's son was instructor in political science at Howard.
He was help.
And one of the other girls there, Laura Lee Spencer, an honor graduate from school, was there. So we employed Laura Lee Spencer and this fellow Robinson in the office. When we got the office open and employed these 2 people, we had $130, not enough to pay them 1 month. But you can bet your life, every girl was getting by there giving us her $10. And we always met our bills. Of course, they thought I'd take leave of my senses to take that chance. But I knew that God was going to help us. I've never done anything that I didn't pray about it as I did it. And I knew He was going to help us. So we worked for 10 years. From 19, they didn't have any office anywhere but in our house. We worked for 10 years, and my sister doesn't belong to sorority, but she let us do it. Then she decided, after we had done it 2 years at our house, she decided that it was time, if I said it was God's project, it was time for him to get an office. So that's what she told me. So we went out to Kansas City. And that's when the chapters and all started to take it over. We went out, they gave us their money, some money, and we opened an office. And things grew. And then when the United Nations was open in 1945. In 1946, we were accredited. We were accredited at the United Nations. And that's when I was happy, because we were the only sorority, I mean black or white, accredited at the United Nations. But we had to take up there all of our activities to get accredited. And so we took up all that we had been doing in the Nonpartisan Council on Public Affairs. And that was the most interesting time of my life in the sorority, because I had an opportunity. My day started 6 o'clock in the morning. It ended 12 o'clock at night, because I was teaching school for a living. But I found, and Ralph Bunch, I was teaching Ralph Bunch's children, and he was on United Nations. So you see, and we were near Howard University, and I had all the backing of the people. I had the backing of the school system and everything. So we involved the school system in our activities. when I talk to you, and like I'm talking today, and I really, hardly 2 months passed without somebody bringing me some girls who were being pledged or were being let you off. And I get a chance to meet them. And I get a chance to see my sorority, our sorority, the future of our sorority. And I am, you know, I think you can do anything you want to do if you want to do it badly enough.
I agree.
And you have a standard that we want set. And I'm so glad to hear you say you think carefully over the women you take in the sorority, because you can't afford to take in anybody who hadn't scholarship and who hadn't character. And I think, I know character comes before scholarship. Character is a thing that, you know, when I was young, I learned that the only people who are my superior are the people whose conduct is superior to mine. The only people, remember that, who are your superior. Money doesn't mean it. Are the people whose conduct is superior to yours. So I think I would stress conduct.
Okay.
Conduct.
Obviously, that's how they felt about you in 1976.
Yeah. Bicentennial woman, right?
Well, I was thrilled at that.
I know.
When they asked me to be the bicentennial woman.
No.
Well, really, I had gotten all of my training for the things I did later in life in the sorority. And then when I went to South America to promote United Nations cause and to represent so many organizations, and really went to South America, to Brazil, to set up a chapter in Brazil, not of the sorority, but a chapter for international health in Brazil. I felt so, it was so rewarding. But I had gotten all of my initial training in working in the sorority. That I feel very grateful that I have my young sorors who are our future, and our future depends on you.
Do you think we're going in the right directions?
Well, I'm sure if all of them are like the two of you, we have it made.
Oh, thank
If all of them are like the two of you. But I want all of them to have the idea of culture and service,
Yeah.
because that's the goal of our sorority.